Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss transport of gases. Myself, Dinesh Dangar. While coming to the transport of gases, the major thing is that is moving air and moving out. We are discussing here about air. As we know that air always moves through the higher concentration to that is from higher partial pressure to lower partial pressure. In this case, we can consider that atmosphere may have a higher partial pressure as compared to the lungs, and air, that is a mixture of gases where it contains nitrogen, oxygen, helium, carbon dioxide, and so many others. What we have here, that is inspiration and the expiration, or we can call it as a inhalation and exhalation. While during the inspiration the diaphragm and intercostal muscles contracts, leading to move air from atmosphere to the lungs, whereas in the cases of exhalation or expiration these muscles relax, that is diaphragm and intercostal muscles relaxes, causes to move out from the lungs. Alveoli. Alveoli is the destination where exactly gases dissolve. Here we used to call it as gas, not oxygen or carbon dioxide, as we know that gas is a mixture of different constituents. Here, the alveoli are the moist, thin-walled pockets which are the sites of gas exchange. Okay, so here the gas exchange takes place at the alveoli. A slightly oily surfactant prevents the alveoli walls, that is from collapsing and sticking together. As you can see here in diagram, it is bronchiole, next is the branch of pulmonary artery. We can see some arterioles over here that is finely divided again into the capillary network, covering all those the ball like projections, that is alveoli, leading to have the site of exchange for oxygen and carbon dioxide. Circulation and exchange of gas. As we know that there will be a basically three types of circulation. Three, actually we cannot consider it as a type, but we will consider it as a in three different phases. First, that is the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation allows to move gases from lungs to heart and heart to lungs, whereas in the cases of systemic circulation, heart allows to move that oxygenated blood from the heart to each and individual cell and tissues, as well as vice versa. And third one, that is coronary circulation, that heart itself provide oxygen and the oxygenated blood to their own cardiac muscles. Gas exchange at the lungs and in the body cells moves oxygen into cells and the carbon dioxide out. This is the normal process where from the respiratory system, that is lungs, oxygenated blood will reaches to the heart, and from heart to each individual cell and tissues. In alveoli, okay, we can see here the microstructure of each and individual alveoli, where in diagram we can see two different colors, and those cells that biconcave shape, they are red blood cells. In this case we can see that while coming from the blood, that is coming from the pulmonary artery, may have a deoxygenated blood, so that color is imparted here with bluish in color. After that, there will be a loading of oxygen in alveoli, leading to change their color from bluish to purple, and at last it becomes red. Right, so this is the normal process where oxygen diffuses into the red blood cell and carbon dioxide will be diffuses into the alveoli. So This is the site alveolus where exactly there will be a exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. The respiratory surface is made up of the alveoli and capillary walls. The walls of the capillaries and the alveoli may share the same membrane. Okay, gas exchange. How exactly the exchanges of gas can take place? Here, as I have mentioned earlier, that gases always diffuses from the higher partial pressure to the lower partial pressure. Here we will consider two most important gases, that is oxygen and the carbon dioxide. Air entering the lungs contains more oxygen and less carbon dioxide than the blood that flows into the pulmonary capillaries. See, this is the basic, we can consider like biophysics, the rule of biophysics, and it follows for the further gas exchange. Here, from higher partial pressure to lower partial pressure. It means it states that whatever oxygen we consume, their partial pressure of oxygen is higher as compared to the blood coming to the pulmonary from the pulmonary vein. So there will be automatically diffusion of oxygen from the alveoli to the pulmonary vein, and the blood may become oxygenated. Whereas in the cases of carbon dioxide, the pulmonary vein may have a higher partial pressure as compared to the gas which is entered through the atmosphere, leading to automatically move carbon dioxide from the pulmonary vein to the alveoli, and at the end of the day it may comes into the atmosphere. We will have that partial pressure also in next slides. Okay, transportation of oxygen. How exactly oxygen will be transported? Hemoglobin binds to the oxygen that diffuses into the bloodstream. Here, for major factor that transport oxygen, that is hemoglobin. Once hemoglobin will bind with oxygen, it forms oxyhemoglobin, and the same oxyhemoglobin will be carried up to the each and individual cell and tissues, where hemoglobin may undergo reduction to leaving or to leave oxygen, and that oxygen may reaches to the cell and tissues. So here, while formation, it forms oxyhemoglobin. When in cases that oxygen may leave that complex, it forms reduced hemoglobin, that is Hb plus O2, it forms HbO2, that is oxyhemoglobin, whereas reduced hemoglobin may have a HHbO2. Carbon dioxide of transport. While considering carbon dioxide transport, the major factor for carbon dioxide, that is bicarbonate. More than 90% of carbon dioxide will get transported with the help of bicarbonates. Carbon dioxide can dissolve in plasma and about 70% forms bicarbonate ions, that is H2O plus CO2, that forms H2CO3. With the help of carbonic anhydrase, it again may undergo conversion of HCO3 minus, that is bicarbonate. Some carbon dioxide can even bind to hemoglobin for further transport, but that is limited to 2 to 4%, not more than that. And this bicarbonate may be present in plasma as well as in hemoglobin too. Okay, here we can see the chart or the differences in partial pressure of oxygen. See here what is depicted out, that is mainly intended for pharmacy students, where they can understand that where exactly the differences occur in cases of partial pressure. See, the inspired air may have a partial pressure of, while considering oxygen, 158.2 millimeter mercury, and for carbon dioxide, 0.3 millimeter mercury. It reaches to the lungs, where we can see that out of 158 to 158.2 millimeter mercury, the oxygen that is reaches to the blood, that is 100 millimeter mercury, whereas in cases of carbon dioxide we can see that 40 millimeter mercury, partial pressure can be seen. Here it always follows the basic biophysics rule, that is from the higher partial pressure to lower partial pressure. So in atmosphere 158.2 millimeter mercury, that is inspired air may contain partial pressure of oxygen that is 158.2 millimeter mercury. Next it is to the blood. In blood the partial pressure may be 100 millimeter mercury and 40 millimeter mercury for carbon dioxide. Now, while coming to the each and individual saline tissue may have a carbon dioxide of 46 millimeter mercury and oxygen that is 40 millimeter mercury. See, here is the basic difference. See, oxygen that is carried towards the cell may have a partial pressure of 100, whereas inside the cell that is 40. So obviously oxygen automatically moves from the blood to the cell, whereas in the cases of carbon dioxide, cell may have a 46 millimeter mercury of carbon dioxide, whereas blood may contain 40 millimeter mercury. So that allows to move carbon dioxide from tissues to the cell, or tissues or cells to the blood. Now, deoxygenated blood that may coming towards the heart may have a partial pressure of oxygen that is 40 millimeter mercury and carbon dioxide that is 46 millimeter mercury. And now the expired air will have a partial pressure of oxygen that is 160 millimeter mercury as well as carbon dioxide that is 26.8 millimeter mercury. Okay, this chart is taken from the PSR publication. Here, this book is used for first semester and second semester pharmacy student. The name of book is Human Anatomy and Physiology. Here, while coming to the mechanism of respiration. See, one thing is sure that the major factor for transportation, that is RBC, as well as bicarbonate ions. First condition states that what exactly is going on at tissue cell or cell tissue level. Okay, so starting with the tissue. From tissue, carbon dioxide will be liberated. Why? Because I have already explained that is due to the differences in partial pressure. Cell may have a partial pressure of 46 millimeter mercury. RBC, which is loaded with oxygen, may have a carbon dioxide of 40 millimeter mercury. So that difference is of 6 millimeter mercury automatically move into have a oxygen that is from tissue to the blood or RBC. So carbon dioxide will be dissolved into the plasma, blood plasma, where it binds with the H2O, forms H2CO3 and again dissociate into the HCO3 minus and H plus, that is bicarbonate. Some of the carbon dioxide may enter into the RBC cell, where again it binds with the H2O and forms H2CO3 leading to HCO3 minus plus H plus. Here there will be a one event. If carbon dioxide enters into the RBC and it forms HCO3 minus, that is bicarbonates, it automatically leaves the red blood cell, right? So there will be a movement of HCO3 minus from red inside the from the red blood cell to the plasma, and that movement may allow us to have access for chloride. There will be entry of chloride into the RBC, and that is termed as a chloride shift. Second condition, carbon dioxide may bind with the hemoglobin to forming carbamino hemoglobin. Now that is all about carbon dioxide. Now second, here we will discuss about oxygen. This specific RBC, just consider that this RBC is coming from the lungs, so it is oxygenated. Here oxygen will be in a form of oxyhemoglobin, that is HbO2. Now it undergoes dissociation to form O2 plus Hb. So here oxygen is liberated and the same will be transported to the cell and tissues. So these are the events occurring at the cell and tissues. Now just imagine that the same RBC reaches to the lungs. Now what will happen? First, the carbon dioxide that was dissolved in plasma will be liberated into the alveoli and it will be given back to the lungs for the exhalation. That HCO3 minus plus H that unite to form H2CO3. Again it forms H2 and CO2. That CO2 will be liberated and given back to the lungs. Next, that HCO3 minus previously went out, that is into plasma, that again comes back into the RBC and bind with H plus, forming H2CO3, and again it may dissociate to form CO2 plus H2O, so that again CO2 will be given back to the lungs. Here whatever whatever carbon dioxide that was already bound with hemoglobin and formed HbCO2, that undergo dissociation forming CO2 plus Hb, that CO2 will be given back to the lungs and reaches to the lungs for further exhalation. Okay, this is about carbon dioxide. Whereas in the cases of oxygen, see now here there will be a oxygen loading, so that O2 will bind with the HHB. See, there are minor difference between the silent tissues and the alveoli. Here in this case, that HHB, why HHB? Because that is reduced hemoglobin. So here O2 will bind with that reduced hemoglobin, leading to the HbO2. Again question comes, how it is and why it is reduced? Because in previous slide, that upper diagram, we have already studied that oxygen that was liberated and given to the silent tissues at very same time, it forms reduced hemoglobin. Now that reduced hemoglobin will bind with the oxygen, forming HbO2 plus H plus, right? So here now the oxygen is loaded. So all we need to remember here while considering the internal respiration, that is this two diagram with carbon dioxide and the oxygen, that is transportation of carbon dioxide and the transportation of oxygen. So what we have discussed today, that is the internal respiration. Thank you.